So surprisingly enough, there's actually not too many trip reports on 2CI, and I actually had a really interesting experience with it back in 2011 at a free rave. So it's basically a rave outside that my friends usually throw, and these these parties usually happen at night, of course, and there's usually like a bonfire. So specifically the fire and some of the lights that they brought really added to the experience. So I'll basically get into what went down. The dose that I took, I'm not actually quite sure. I got it in pill form because the guy that sold it to me basically already put it in capsules and everything, so I don't know exactly how much it was, but it was definitely a strong trip. I believe it was only one that I needed to take. And 2CI is very interesting to me because it's actually one of the most powerful phenethylamines of the 2CX series. Some of the most powerful ones that I've tried were 2CE and I believe... Actually, you know what? I was actually only really interested in 2CE, to be honest, and 2CI. 2CE was basically very similar to mushrooms, but a more electronic experience and less... I wasn't able to get anywhere out of body with it, so it was basically mushrooms without the out of body experience, but still a very interesting, energetic drug that's good for any sort of rave scene circumstance or anything like that. But also 2CI was very interesting because specifically the visual aspects of it. So when I took it, we were basically dancing to the rave music and all of that, and that was back when dubstep was really big, and definitely a really long time ago. Well, not that long. It was only like 8 years ago. But basically we were... When it started to kick in, it started to make me feel really energized, and I'm not really sure if that energy was because of the music and because I was really excited to be around everyone, and there was a lot of people that I liked that were there, so I was definitely really happy when I had that experience. So it's good that I went into the experience very content and very excited about things. It's bad to go into a trip with when you're going through a difficult time or depression, and at that time I wasn't really depressed, so I was actually doing pretty well. And the experience was not... There wasn't too much closed-eyed visuals, and other than patterning and things like that, but normally there isn't very many closed-eyed visuals for me on any psychedelic when I'm around people. I usually can only experience very in-depth visual style closed-eyed visuals and out-of-body stuff and entities when I'm alone in silent darkness. That's just how I work. I don't really know if it's the same for other people, but for me, I was just seeing like really nice energetic patterning in my closed eye, and I had the impression that 2CI had a purple tint to it. I was talking to someone on my YouTube channel who also likes to assign colors to the experience that they're having, and I would describe 2CE as green, but 2CI was definitely purplish red, and that was just the type of... it was just like a tint, like if you're wearing glasses and purple tinted glasses, that's kind of what it feels like to me, or that's how I would describe it. But the very interesting about 2CI is that its effect on pareidolia, which is basically our ability to see patterns where there are no patterns. I forget the actual word for it, to see actual faces and things. It's I forget the term for it, but I can post the term for you guys in the video. But basically, this one caused the pareidolia of seeing faces and everything to skyrocket to like the most intense that I've ever experienced. And this was at the point where I was seeing faces literally everywhere in my peripherals and everything that I looked at. It was just really energetic faces that were just going overboard. And I found it to be really interesting and really fun to experience. I know that some people end up having hallucination persistent disorder, where they claim that they're seeing faces and everything, and that's totally normal. That's just your body is recognizing more patterns, and we're clued in to see faces and everything because we have a really advanced facial recognition ability. So that's usually what psychedelics do, is they enhance that effect so that you end up I often feel like that's the effect that makes us feel like nature has come to life, because we start to see faces and everything. We start to see faces in the trees and faces in the grass and whatever, and it starts to feel alive. But with 2CI, it was almost a energetic face multiplier that completely just put faces everywhere. And I've never experienced open-eyed visuals quite like that, quite so intense with the pareidolia. And I remember that it actually lingered a bit. I usually end up having hallucination persistent disorder if I see a lot of pareidolia faces in my trip. It ends up lasting for a while, especially when I smoke weed. Anytime that I would smoke weed, it would basically ramp that up, even though the trip was completely gone and over with. Right now, I'm really sober, so I don't experience any sort of extreme pareidolia. When I start to feel better emotionally, I'm definitely going to start tripping again. I just want to make sure that I'm completely well and don't have anything that I'm dealing with that's too heavy, because I don't want to put more pressure on myself, as I mentioned before. But the trip lasted, I think, similar to 2CE, but maybe a bit less time. But in terms of energetic and stimulative effects, I believe that 2CE is definitely more intense in terms of how much it's stimulating your body. 2CI was a little bit less, or a little bit more mellow, but I felt a greater excitement with what I was experiencing, because I've tried both 2CE and 2CI at raves, and 2CE almost makes me a little too stimulated. I actually feel like it's kind of dangerous when you take a high dose, because it's so very rough on the body in terms of what it makes it go through. But 2CI was definitely more of a head buzz. It was definitely more of something that was less effective, or less overloading on the body. And the reason why I stopped taking phenethylamines is specifically for that reason, is because it feels too hard on the body. I feel as if tryptamines are more of a head trip, and it's almost closer to what I would expect from a meditation session than taking an actual drug. I feel the 2CX series chemicals were more drug-like and were more MDMA stimulating like, and I just personally don't really want to subject myself to that kind of experience anymore, just because I want to be most productive, and I feel as if taking something like 4-ACO-DMT, I can just have the trip and then not have to have some stimulative afterglow and have to sleep it off for a long time. So the tryptamines are definitely more ideal for me. And what I'm trying to go through. Lately, I've just been smoking DMT so that I can get it over with in 5 minutes and get back to doing stuff. I don't have the time that I used to have to basically trip forever and not have any concerns. I live a very productive life right now, so I need to make sure that I can get right back to work after my trips. So 6 hours is the most that I can afford to spend on a trip, and even that's too long for me usually. So I try to plan that out for when it's 100% necessary and not just a recreational thing, because I'm not a recreational drug user anymore. It's strictly for introspective experiences or spiritual growth, I guess you would call it, for lack of a better word. But yeah, that was pretty much the experience. I just wanted to say how much 2CI affected by pareidolia and ability to see faces in objects where there are no faces. And I want to know if other people have experienced a similar effect from it, and if I'm hopefully not the only one. I still think it was really fascinating how it affected it so drastically. And if you guys have anything else to add about it, then let me know, and I will see you in the next video.